Never quit.
Go hard, go tough, and see if you can get it done.
Kind of sounds like you never want to give up.
Being tough, being strong, being able to outlast everybody.
Whatever life throws at you, just deal with it and get tough.
I think it speaks to Pioneer Days, the reason we're here and have all these celebrations and are able to have rodeos and mix a little cowboy tough with it, and you get Salt Lake gritty. I like it.
Hello and welcome to Models of the Future Workplace. My name is Arian Lewis. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Kiln. We're a creative workspace for a lot of tech companies here in Utah. And I am joined today by Mindy Cox, the Senior Vice President of People and Great Work, which I think is a very cool title, with OC Tanner, which is a people company, which we're going to learn a little bit more about today. We are fortunate to be here with Silicon Slopes and sponsored today by R0. R0.com, you should check them out, making workspace safer. And they've got crazy robots like these sitting behind us here that go into your space and put out really good air and ions to clean and create a safe office space. So check them out, R0.com. Mindy, such a pleasure to have you with us today. I am really interested to hear your perspective because, A, your business, OC Tanner, is like in the business of making culture and people great. But you sit at the top of the People and Great Work org within OC Tanner. So let's start by having just a quick introduction. Tell us about you, and then give us a little bit of snapshot of who is OC Tanner.
Thank you so much for having me here today, and I am thrilled to talk about this company that I love and the purpose that we put into the world. So OC Tanner, many local Utahns only know OC Tanner as a high-end jewelry store. And so, yes, I hope you've been there.
We go there at an important moment in life.
Exactly.
For a single, very important purchase sometimes.
That's exactly right. And so you can go back on the anniversary of those single important moments as well. So,
good idea.
Yes. But the bigger business of OC Tanner, the business that makes us a global company at nearly 1,600 employees and 1,200 in Utah, the business that is going on in that mysterious, beautiful building on 20th South and State Street is a global culture company, global recognition company. We use technology to enable connection at work, and our purpose is to help people thrive at work all over the world. And so we are excited every day by the opportunity we have to connect humans to their purpose and to each other in the workplace.
So for a business that is focused on enabling great culture for other companies, that's a lot of pressure on you to make sure that OC Tanner itself has an amazing culture. And this last year was definitely like a lot of change, a lot of challenge. The pandemic threw us a lot of opportunity to learn. So tell us, let's start at the beginning of the pandemic. When you hit the pandemic, what did you do or how did you change your strategy in the first 6 months?
Wow, immediately is how we changed it, immediately. So it's interesting because we began writing a daily email to our employees from the very beginning.
From the beginning of the pandemic?
From the very beginning. So
that's smart.
We just
regular
received,
communication.
Well, and it was essential at the time, and then it turned into a different kind of essential. We had a lot of information to communicate. We were watching the situation globally very closely, and when it became apparent mid-March that going to remote work as much as we were able was the right thing to do, we communicated that. And we communicated that in as face-to-face a way as possible. Ironically, it was our first recorded Zoom to the entire company, and we shared that out, that video out.
You called it a face-to-face away. Is that what you just said?
We said we are as face-to-face as possible today, I think was our terminology.
Got it.
Yeah, which is I think what we've all been trying to do.
Yes.
Be as face-to-face as possible.
Unless you turn off your camera, and those of you who might be turning off your camera on a meeting today, just remember, You're not face-to-face if you have your camera off. Keep going.
There's a lot of psychology in that statement,
Uh-huh.
for sure. So we went home like everybody else on that Friday. I think we announced it March 12th, was a Thursday, I think, and we went home on that Friday and thought, this will be short and odd, and what an interesting moment to be having together. And then I remember the earthquake
Yes.
on March 16th.
Yes.
And so it was kind of like trauma on top of trauma at that point.
Yes, it was.
And we have such an interesting work environment. We have many people for whom it was, should I say easy, it was feasible to transition their work to home. But we have about 350 artisans, craftspeople, team members that we had to keep on site. And if we didn't keep our location open, they didn't have a way to make a living.
Interesting.
And so we became fiercely, I would say, protective of the bubble that we were trying to create at our headquarters facility.
It's too bad R0 wasn't around then.
It is too bad. We did look
Yeah.
for things like that.
They're
so.
super cool.
But our people took it upon themselves to adopt every safety measure. Even when we were trying to figure it out, hey, we don't know if this mask thing will help or hurt, but could you wear them? Because we think, right now the best thinking is that that's what we can do. We're going to change your work routine so that you're wiping down surfaces at regular intervals. We're going to space you out. We know that we've brought the teams closer together to create some efficiencies with your work, but we're going to work a little slower.
Did you spearhead a lot of that policy?
I spearheaded the discussion on creating that policy. I'm not the expert on everything, but we have a lot of really smart people in the building that know a lot more about what we do than I do, and the day-to-day and how that impacts. But they needed some space to create some new decisions in that moment. And I'm so proud of our leaders who partnered with team members, who came up with a way to work that kept our people safe, kept our doors open, kept us shipping, kept us moving into what was an unexpectedly successful year for us as a company. And for everybody that went home, a lot of our end game is getting product out to our clients. And those people at work who are being recognized with a symbol or a moment or a gift. And if we can't create that last 10 yards, that last mile, whatever you want to call it, we don't get to complete our entire mission. So it really does take all of us. And so by protecting that environment, by saying if you can work from home, you should, and do not come in. If you have to be on site, these are the new practices, and these are the ways that we're going to protect you. Forget about paying for lunch in our awesome cafeteria. Food's on us. We don't want you going out to restaurants.
Gotcha.
We can't enable you to bring lunches and store them from home. So we will provide food.
Yes.
And 340 days worth of meals later, we're just wrapping that up.
Oh, yeah?
But
I'm sure that'll be a benefit. Some will be sad to see go.
it is, and we've talked about that a little bit. But what's so amazing about our people is the gratitude that they have expressed about where we've been, and the excitement about where we're going, and that this is a moment that it's okay to change. We were forced into change before, but we're going to be really intentional about the new better that's ahead of us.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because I'm really interested. So obviously a lot of us went through sort of a ricochet of change for that period, but what do you think we learned, or Octane or you learned from the pandemic that continues on and that has real fundamental change in your organization?
I would say that the conversation around what could be accomplished remotely was not only accelerated, but like warp speed, and we know we can do it. We know we can do it, and we can have a successful year, and we can deliver results. That said, we do not find it to be our ideal state. So there's been a lot that's been sacrificed.
Remote, not ideal, but how would you describe?
Feasible.
Feasible, okay.
Yeah, feasible. And we look at that now as part of our contingency planning. We look about how more connected we are globally as a company. It really leveled the playing field with our global locations. We have
Because again, you have how many employees here and how many employees not in Utah?
So we have about 400 employees not in Utah, and
Got
they
it.
are scattered among 6 global locations.
Cool.
So, but we had invited them to participate in events before, but hadn't been really mindful about what that participation felt like.
Like a virtual event for them.
Sure, they're on a conference call number.
You're right.
Right, and not on video, not on Zoom.
Right.
Not at a time that wasn't the middle of the night for our India team.
That's a good point.
And so even our work habits as a team changed because we really want to speak to this team face to face. We'll see you at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock tonight. And that's become a new normal for us. And that's okay from time to time. The sacrifices we were asking them to make to join us, we can once in a while have, you know what I mean, make some time sacrifices. And so the exchange, I think, is more equitable. And I love that. And I think more than ever, we are really finding that our international teams have contributions that were going unrealized. And so it's become more inclusive that way, I would say, being able to embrace that remote capability.
So you would call OC Tanner now, you'd say, if we have this whole spectrum, we have like remote first, hybrid, office first, remote supported, office only. Like where are you, what do you call yourself?
Hybrid.
You call yourself hybrid?
We're moving to hybrid.
Okay.
So, and we've been hybrid throughout the pandemic because we had site-dependent people. We had people whose work was site-dependent. They couldn't do it at home. So,
so why hybrid? Sorry, I cut you off. Keep going with your thought.
As we look at how we want to intentionally come back and what we want to do to create that we feel like is essential to creating some of the components that we've missed or that we've sacrificed because of what we've had to do, hybrid becomes a model that's really attractive to us because we look at what people feel is the benefit of going remote, and that's been flexibility, that's been some days not commuting, that's been additional time with family, that's been heads down time. Right? I can actually, if I collaborate and I get my work set and I need some independent time to get the work done and to really think through difficult problems. We get the best of both. We believe in a hybrid model. So our plan, and we're having a soft open at the beginning of July. We have everyone expected to return to workplace at the beginning of August, and it will be 3 days in the office and 2 days with an option for work from home.
Okay, got it. So it's 2 days optional work from home, but we're going to try to be in the office 3 days a week together.
Yes.
Is it specific days that you're together, or is it department-based? How does that work?
No, we have chosen to start with specific days. We want to be able to have days where we can count on having cross-departmental meetings.
Got it.
Where people can just plan to be in the office.
So what days did you pick?
We picked Monday through Wednesday.
Okay, interesting. So bang it out together the beginning of the week, and then Thursday, Friday, you can do remote if you need to.
Right.
Or if you want to.
And if you want to. And that's been even a mind shift for some people. Is they're saying, well, if I can't come in Thursday and Friday, and we said we didn't say that. Like the building's going to be open. You're welcome to come in. If that is the best scenario for you, it doesn't even have to be every week. If that particular week your team is jamming on something or you're going to do your best work in the office, come in.
Got it.
We're going to be there.
So that's really interesting. I've heard people say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I've heard people do like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. How did you settle on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? What was the logic that built that plan?
The logic that built that was definitely wanting some set days together, talking to our people about which days they perceived as the most advantageous flexibility-wise, and really understanding that we want to start the week together. There's some momentum in sort of
there is momentum
in
together,
being together, setting out what the plan is for the week, and letting that play out and then starting again.
Cool. Okay, so anything else that you feel is really going to be a mainstay for your culture, your company, that has come from the learnings from the pandemic?
I think, ironically, the gratitude that we're going to feel when we're together again, having these events. We're very celebration-based, gathering-based culture. Our whole business model is about connecting people and having employee experiences. And so we've had a lot of people lament, this is the time of year that we always do this picnic or this meeting, or we celebrate this or celebrate that, and it's hard to not be together. It's kind of like not going home for Christmas if you do that every year.
Yep.
There's something to place.
Yes.
And I think that our employees are going to carry forward a deeper gratitude for the fact that those moments can happen now.
That's a good point. I think all of us have had, probably just in the last month, moments when we're like, oh, it feels really good to be back together, whether it's with family or with colleagues or with other professionals in the industry, actually. I just went to a summer soiree thing last night, and I think everybody was especially enthusiastic to be together, and went, I think, an hour or two longer than it was intended to go, and it's really good. What did you learn about human connectedness and mental well-being through this process?
Oh, such a good question. We learned to keep talking, even if you didn't know the answer or you didn't know what to say. I would say that's probably my deepest lesson. These daily emails that became kind of a lifeline in our company, we didn't always know what to say. I mean, what do you say every day?
Yeah.
But the fact that we said something kept people tied back. And it became, we got a lot of feedback that it became a ritual for people. So our India team would say, I wake up every morning and read the email. And sometimes we talked about business results. Sometimes we talked about things going on in different locations. Sometimes we celebrated big wins or accomplishments. Sometimes we talked really seriously about tragic things that had happened. Social issues, we addressed a lot of social issues and facilitated conversation there. It was a very important year for us to talk really seriously about a lot of things. But we also got news from people that when the emails were silly, or we just shared something about our families or our dog or something goofy or a picture that we thought was funny that day. I remember when the windstorm came through Salt Lake City, we had a couple of our executive team members on a Zoom call, and they were working from their trucks in parking lots trying to get Wi-Fi, and I just took a screen grab of that, and we just talked about resiliency and dedication and how funny it was that an F-150 became somebody's office that day. And that just kept people connected because we couldn't see how each other were doing or how we were accomplishing our work. But when we gave these little insights every day, it really connected people. And we had some people tell us, I sit down with my kids and we read the email every night. And I just remember thinking, wow, we had no intention of building that, and it wasn't hard, and it didn't take a team to figure out. We just kept talking. And that's something that I really want to make sure happens going forward. And it's the most simple practice. But it's like recognition. It's like what OC Tanner tries to put into every company. It's not about somebody winning an award. It's about that moment where somebody tells you what you did that was awesome and how it made a difference. And that is a conversation and a connection point that puts us in relationship with each other instead of transaction.
Cool. I like that last point. It's a relationship, not a transaction. It did feel transactional at times when you were pounding through a Zoom meeting, and especially after the months and months of doing that, it felt like, let's just get this meeting accomplished. And so it's nice to make sure that communications don't become too transactional. Okay, let's take your OC Tanner hat off for a moment. And as an expert in the industry, what do you think is the long-term effect on the future of workplace for the tech industry? You're in the tech industry. For the tech industry as a result of the pandemic?
Well, right now I can tell you, as someone that is eagerly trying to hire and attract tech talent, we have never had so many conversations about workplace and how you're going to accomplish work. There was always sort of this assumption. I mean, we discussed other benefits, we discussed pay, we discussed projects, we discussed the technology you'd be working on and the outcomes you'd be generating. But to have a very first conversation with someone who's like, what's your, are you fully remote? And then if their window or their outlook is, I'm going to say no if the answer is no, we have to be able to have that conversation with each other. And I hope that we can come to a place where we're talking about why business needs us to be together at times, and why working remotely is appropriate and advantageous at other times, and have that flexibility of both employees and employers, and where we can generate, the highest level of synergy between that combination.
Yeah, it is interesting, and you definitely are going to have people that are like, I'd love to work for you, but I want to live in Oregon, or I want to live up in the mountains with a satellite, internet connection. So what do you do? I mean, do you make exceptions to that based on the role, or do you say, hey, we're office 3 days a week? How have you handled that?
I'll be honest that for some hard to source positions, I mean, there's just some technologists that are rare and hard to find. We have made some exceptions. It is our practice that we want most everyone participating in the hybrid policy. But I think it's false to say that under no circumstance for whatever unicorn you're looking for, you can't you would never make an exception. So of course we have those rare exceptions. But I will say this: we are finding more often than not just the idea that the flexibility exists is what is important. But individuals will often, when they experience the place or the collaboration that is our culture and our teams, they choose to be there. They choose to be in the middle of that. One example of that I'll just share is that one of our employees, one of our great leaders, who was the most adamant about implementing remote work policies prior to COVID, was kind of elated at the idea that, not at a pandemic, but at the fact that we were being forced into this space to examine all of the many, many benefits and that would come from working remotely. And truly there are some. I mean, truly there are some. But I have to say that several months into the pandemic, this same leader rented a workspace because mentally and productivity-wise, he needed a space that was dedicated to work for him. And so we both went through a learning experience. We were both right, which I like is the coolest outcome ever when you're having a debate. Right?
Yeah, really good value in being able to enable remote or virtual work. But we also realize we need people, and we need sometimes separation from the distractions of home, or just mentally being able to remove ourselves from maybe our home environment at times.
One of the things I have worried about the most and have experienced personally too is it's not working from home, but living from work.
I like that, yeah.
And it's not healthy. It's not good. And no matter where we end up, whether we end up trying this hybrid policy and pushing more toward remote work, whether we end up trying this hybrid policy and pressing more toward on-site work, we cannot have people working 24/7. And that has been something that, our CEO has spoken out about during the middle of the pandemic, telling people, take vacation time, take a break, sign off. Don't do back-to-back meetings. Make meetings 45 minutes long. You have to build in breaks.
So many meetings. There were lots of meetings, a deluge of meetings. During the pandemic, it felt like there was such a desire to stay connected. I think that was what was driving it in part. But the virtual meetings did take a long time, and I think getting to 20-minute or 30-minute meetings was helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay, well let's finish on this final note. So you're a historian. You're looking back at the culture of O.C. Tanner and the workplace 20 years from now, and you look back. What are the big changes that have really, really long-term value in terms of impacting your culture? Cultural historian. Does that make sense?
I believe that we will look back on this period and understand how important the human experience is to the workplace. And we had always sort of had that gray area mixing. Technology had enabled us to be always on, but now we've been always on in each other's homes. And kids have walked in, and life has happened, and it hasn't been a minute. It's been a while.
Yes.
And we are connected in different ways, and I don't think that there's any denying that the recognition of our humanity at work has to change and be prioritized. And that experience, I think, is going to improve workplaces everywhere. And companies that get that and they build a culture that's based on that humanity, and that there's an equitable exchange for what's happening. I give you purpose and growth and opportunity, and I recognize the fact that you're going to have life in the middle of all of that. We just get to a really great place, I think, as a society, as a world, and as people. I hopefully will come out happier because we've had this kind of forced experiment, and we can be more intentional about the way we rebuild that experience.
I like what you say, and I especially think it's really thoughtful that we have to be real about the fact that we are having a human experience at work. We do need one another, not just to get a job done, but to have emotional connectedness and to feel like we're a part of this, to feel like we're part of a community and to feel like we have a role not only in our job function, but in the way that we support, celebrate, help others around us. There was a lot of good that came out of that sort of recognition. Oh, we like each other, and that's part of what makes work fun and great and fulfilling. I also think that different people's talents come out, right? Some people's talents really did come out when they were working virtually. They were able to, I don't know, interact in a way that we hadn't seen before. And then also, there were some people who are sort of cheerleaders or nurturers or amazing sort of characters in the office that we didn't get to enjoy quite the same way, and that really can shine when we're in person.
So true.
Mindy, do you have any final thoughts before we send off?
No, I'm just excited about the place that we're at, and this sort of return to the new better. You know, I don't think we have to go back to what was. Like, let's just invent what's next. And I think there's a lot of energy around that. I think there's a lot of optimism around that. I think there's a lot of anxiety around that. I hope that we're all paying attention to all of those emotions and how they kind of mash up with our people. But let's just step into it. And, you know, even the fact that we're sitting here having this conversation face to face is so refreshing to me.
Good.
It's so refreshing. So thank you for leading out with that example.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here. We are here only at the behest of the mighty Silicon Slopes, and we're very grateful that they have made it possible for us to be here. And of course, r0, And we hope that you've enjoyed this session on the Models of the Future Workplace. Mindy is awesome, and I have a feeling that if you need to learn more, you could somehow connect with her through LinkedIn or other ways. And
I love that.
she is really not only a great executive, but also a really wonderful person and human.
Thank you.
And
Thank
loved your thoughts today. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.